I have a quick little minute here before my next lesson starts, and I want to share a little tidbit. The tidbit is the following. When you're learning a language and it comes to listening comprehension, I highly recommend that you're trying to watch content that you can actually understand a decent amount of what's going on, even if you don't understand all the words. So for example, I just taught an English lesson on Skype here, and we were watching some kids react videos. So,
you know what that is used for?
Walkie-talkie? Speaking into it. Music, a boombox. Wait. It's a cassette player, right?
It actually is a device that plays music.
Oh. So maybe we'll play music today?
Oh, here, radio, AM, FM, stop, play, okay.
What are you talking about?
So videos where kids see something old, like a rotary phone or like Windows 1995, a VCR player, VHS tape, payphones, etc. And we're watching those because number one, they're funny and they're interesting. But number two, even if you don't catch every single word, you can understand a decent amount of what's happening by the kids' reactions and like their expressions, and it's like, so you can actually still enjoy the content, and even though you don't understand everything. So finding things to be able to do that, finding those input activities that you don't necessarily need to understand all the words, that's a really good hack. I recently discovered that two of my students, they like Harry Potter, so brought this book here, and it's basically, so you think you know Harry Potter. It's a Harry Potter trivia book, quite fascinating, I love it, and we started to actually play some trivia games with this book. So we had a bit of a competition with different points to see who could win. Each of us would take turns reading a question from the book, and the book is in English, obviously, and we take turns reading questions out of the book, but we'd have to translate into French and respond in French. And so it was quite fascinating, because I found that it was actually an interesting exercise for sentence structure, right? Because what would happen is that people, my students, would need to basically try and figure out, how can I translate this into French? And even they were saying, like, it forced them to think about word order and to think about French in ways they hadn't really done in quite some time. So yeah, it was interesting, it was fun, and they learned a fair bit. Okay, let's do that. So what we'll do then is I will, to do our, quote unquote level test, I'll ask you some different things in French, and some things maybe will be very easy, some things might be a little bit challenging, some things might be intermediate, and then we'll work from there. Just finished up all my teaching for the day. It is just before 9 p.m. Here are some highlights from this afternoon and evening of teaching. Lots of work on pronunciation, and it's just like one of the things that you got to do with pronunciation when you're trying to help someone is you've really got to break down the sound like as minutely as possible. That's like a really big thing that I'm realizing as I'm doing more pronunciation work. Also, what's important when you're doing pronunciation is you have to try and give you have to try and explain each sound in as many different ways as possible, and sometimes even showing other people's videos, because everyone has lots of different ways to explain it. I feel like in pronunciation, the more ways that it is explained and the more different strategies and more ways you try and wrap someone's head around to doing it, the more likely they'll actually be able to pronounce things right. And on top of that, I think it's encouraging people that if it's different than what you normally sound like, it's a good thing, even if your different is wrong, because you made different movements in your mouth to try and say that sound. And as you move things around in your mouth, as you do different things with your airflow, eventually you're going to stumble across the right sound, and muscle memory is going to kick in, and you're going to remember how to produce it every time. Anything else? Yeah, in terms of writing, this is another big gem I took away. I did an English writing lesson earlier, and I realized that giving people a very strict formula to follow, like your first sentence starts with this, then it's going to be followed by this. Your second sentence needs to start with this. Your third sentence needs to start with this. And giving a very structured approach is a phenomenal strategy and helps people write and helps people really know what to do. Big takeaway there. Yeah, there's a bunch of takeaways. So got to do some editing. Got a bunch of admin stuff to do, a little bit of marketing stuff. It's going to be a late night today, I think. But yeah, wrap up the vlog there. See you guys next time. Bye for now.